Hello all and welcome to this, and we're going to talk a little Lucha Underground because the season finale, maybe series finale, we don't know, was tonight. And I've been watching the show since right around the time that Aztec Warfare happened. Everyone raved about Aztec Warfare, and so I was like, okay, I'll start watching the show. So I binged watched the show one night, or over 2 nights, I think, and then watched Aztec Warfare. And I was like, oh, this is actually, I'm really enjoying this. There's a lot about this I actually like. And so I kept watching, and we just got done with the 2 hour uh, Ultimo Lucha uh, season series finale, whatever it winds up being. And it was pretty awesome. Was the wrestling the best wrestling you could find? No. But it was a very, very enjoyable 2 hours. Just so much fun. It was a fun show. I think that's something that you can watch a wrestling show that has just a lot of just great stuff on it, but it's not necessarily fun. And this was a lot of fun. This was just really enjoyable to watch. Kept looking forward to the next thing. Um, Especially after last week where, the stuff that I didn't even think would be all that great, Cage versus Mack, which turned out to be a lot of fun. And of course, the Hernandez versus Drago, which turned out to be just a good match. I mean, just a lot of fun as well. So, of course, everything's been leading up to this. The whole Black Lotus stuff, everything's been leading up to this. And did it meet every expectation I had? Probably not. But it was pretty damn close. And I got enough answers that I was happy with it, I guess I would say. Um, so, what did we get? Well, we start off with Johnny Mundo versus Alberto El Patron, and what I thought was a pretty great match by the time it got in. It was a little overbooked, but it was a lot of fun. Had a lot of counters, a lot of stuff. You didn't really know who was going to win. I guess as long as you know didn't pay attention to the spoilers, which I didn't, and was really good. And then of course at the end of the match, spoiler, Melina shows up, which they hadn't talked about her, hadn't done any had hinted nothing that I can think of, and she magically shows up. It was a nice surprise. It was in the opener. It was a little bit overbooked in kind of the way they did things, but it was the opener, so it wasn't like it was that bad, and there wasn't a lot of that in any other matches. So there you go. Then we had probably the match that everybody's going to be like completely whacked on as far as how much they liked it, which was Pentagon Jr. taking on Vampiro. This has been set up, set up, set up, and one of the complaints people have had over the show is Pentagon Jr. because he seems to be the guy that is the most over, probably of anybody on the show. And it didn't seem like they did a very good job of capitalizing on that. And I think there's two reasons for that. First, the way that they taped so far out in advance that it was very hard to capitalize on what when he started to get over, all of that. I think it was very hard for them to capitalize on it, and also I think the fact that they, you can tell really stuck with their guns on what they wanted to do as far as storylines, and so I think both of those kind of hurt what they did with him. Though I will say that I think it's set up really well. If we get a season two, I think with his storyline, the fact that we found out that Vampiro was the master, which I know some people were kind of upset about, but I think could work. I think the fact that if you explain it, that he had to basically destroy Vampiro for Vampiro to basically say yes, I will now teach you, I will now do this or this, and so I think that works. The match itself was absolutely nuts. It was completely smoke and mirrors, garbage match in all of the best ways possible. They had flaming tables, they did light tubes, they teased a Vampiro getting stretched out. They did all sorts of just crazy stuff, and so I could see a lot of people, I think, absolutely thought this was like the best match they ever saw, and some people just saw this as complete garbage. I'm probably somewhere in between. I thought it was good. I thought it served its purpose. I thought it told a pretty good story, and it was just insanity. I mean, it just really was. As crazy as I thought that Mack versus Cage was, this was like the next level of just nutsoid is what this was. So thought that really worked. You had the Gift of the God match, which I thought was good, with Phoenix winning. This was, of course, the Gift of the God. What it basically is, you basically win a Money in the Bank style belt, which you have to defend, and when you cash it in, you have to cash it in a week in advance, which means you have to give Dario Cueto a week to set up the match, which makes actually some sense. So Phoenix won. There was a lot of crazy dives, a lot of crazy moves, a lot of crazy just insanity that was just kind of insanity. Big Rick was put into the match. You had Aerostar, Bengala, King Corno, Sexy Star, Jack Evans, and Phoenix. I would have liked to have seen Jack Evans actually win this, but he didn't. But Aerostar is probably every bit as or Phoenix. Sorry, I said Aerostar, but Phoenix is just as good as anybody to actually win this. And then we had Blue Demon Jr. versus Texano. This was the worst match by far. It didn't go very long. I was glad. I was kind of looking at the clock, going, I hope this doesn't go long, and it didn't, which I'm glad. It was just kind of the crew came out with Blue Demon Jr. dressed up in suits, which was a nice kind of cool little change for them. So there was that. Then we had the main event, which was Mil Muertes taking on Prince Puma. This was great. It started off kind of slow. It did get really good. Absolutely loved this. Thought this was as good as anything that you could imagine. They protected both guys' finishers to such a degree that when they started taking out of each other's finishers, it was a big deal. Katrina, was herself in this. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. Mil Muertes went over, which means that at the end, what you basically saw was you had basically all of Katrina's like little stable have all the belts. So you had all of that. And then, of course, we had the cutscenes back behind. And the first one we saw at the beginning was Dragon Azteca found Black Lotus, and they had a confrontation. Black Lotus killing the second person who died on the show. Dragon Azteca, and then basically started a war, and so she basically went with Dario Cueto, who he said, this is who actually killed your family, it wasn't me, and it wasn't my brother, and all of that. And so that happened, and so we didn't see them for the rest of the show. Then at the very end of the show, basically they're leaving, they're going to the new temple, wherever the new temple is supposed to be, and they're taking Matanza with them, and they clean out Dario's office, and Dario actually came back and got his little bowl, which was a nice little touch. And you see them getting into an Escalade, I think, and they're taking off, and they got Matanza in the back in like a horse trailer, and you see Matanza looking through this little trailer. You actually kind of see his face. He kind of looks. They've got him dressed up, kind of looking like what's his name from TNA? I can't think of his name. But anyways, with the mask, yeah. So they have him kind of dressed up like that, and then they kind of went through and they kind of did a little montage of like everybody. Like you got Marty the Moth had, I guess, taken Sexy Star and kidnapped her, and was telling Sexy Star that everyone thinks I'm crazy, but wait until you see my sister. So whoever her sister's supposed to be, you had Phoenix taking off in like a '70s gold Firebird, and then as he's leaving, can't think of his name. King Corno. King Corno was in his Bronco, which we'd seen before, and he was basically hunting now Phoenix. You had Aerostar and Drago looked like they made some sort of an alliance, and Drago, went out the temple and went off in his ball of fire, and then you had Aerostar go out, and then they like showed like an aerial, like a down shot of Aerostar just looking up, and then they made it look like Aerostar like flew off into space. So that was kind of cool. You had Son of Havoc was telling Helenio that that they would go back for the titles, and that they'd see him down the road, and he took off in his little dirt bike like thing, and then him and Ivelisse got on their bike, and he said, one more ride down the road, and they went on down the road. Who else did they show? They showed Pentagon Jr. with Vampiro, and he said, "Where are we going?" And he says, "We have to go even darker," or something like that. And then I think that was pretty bad. Then you had the new Dragon Azteca, who was the guy from last episode, I'm guessing, in the white hoodie. And he put on the thing, and you saw the Lucha Underground sign with a little question mark on top of it. And then it ended with Dario Cueto basically in the temple, and the lights going out in the temple, and him kind of stepping forward, kind of looking like the devil, which was kind of cool. The ending sequence you need to go see. I cannot do it justice. It was just completely awesome. And basically, if you like that, you will, and you're a fan of that, you will like Lucha Underground. Here's hoping they get a second season, because I really hope so. Because the show is it's so much fun to watch. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. I would say it's a fun show to watch, and you can't always say that about wrestling shows. It's very much, I've said this before. It's kind of a grown-up version of Chikara with a budget. And hopefully they'll find someone willing to pay the budget so that we can actually get a season 2, because there was a lot of cliffhangers. There was a lot of, hey, what's still going on? We still really, there's still a lot of stuff that they've hinted about throughout the season, particularly with like Aztecian myths and all that sort of thing. So, especially when you add these 2 hours with the last two, with last week's show, it's 3 hours of, I think, really good TV. And there's, you don't find that. I mean, you got the New Japan show, which is pretty much always great, because they just take the best New Japan matches, and have 2 guys that can that do awesome commentary and just go to town with it. But other than that, I mean, there's really nothing, I think, week in, week out that really matches Lucha Underground. So hopefully we get it. We get it. So season 2. But anyways, I'm out. Just wanted to talk about that later.